Stapidam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cham Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Ragana Tanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapachubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Ramachaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nasta Presho Badreshu Nityam Bhagavad Shevaya Bhagavad Utama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Today, Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 30, The Activities of the Prachetas. Text number 38. Techa Brahmana Adeshan Marisham Upaye Mire Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad Ajana Ajana Yoni Jaha Teche Brahmana Adeshan Marisham Upaye Mire Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad Ajanya Jana Yoni Rajaha Techa Brahmana Adeshan Marisham Upaye Mire Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad Ajanya Jana Yoni Jaha Techa Brahmana Adeshan Marisham Upaye Mire Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad Ajanya Jana Yoni Jaha
Techa Brahmana Adeshan
Techa Brahmana Adeshan
Marisham Upaye Mere
Marisham Upaye Mire
Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad
Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad
Ajanya Jana Yojinaha
Ajanya Jana Yoni Jaha Teche Brahmana Adeshan Marisham Upaye Mire Yasyam Mahadava Jnanad Ajanya Jana Yoni Jaha Techa Brahmana Adeshan Madisham Upaye Mere Yasyam Maharavagyanad Ajanya Jana Yonijaha Teche Brahmana Adeshan Madisham Upaye Mere Yasyam Maharavagyanad Ajanya Jana Yonijaha. The synonyms, te, all the prachetas. Cha, also. Brahmanaha, of Lord Brahma. Adeshat, by the order. Marisham, Marisha. No, Marisha. Not Marisha. Marisha. And if you ever have a daughter, you can name her Marisha. Upaye Mire, married. Yasyam, in whom? Mahat, to a great personality. Avagyanat, on account of disrespect. Ajani, took birth. Ajanayoni Jaha, the son of Lord Brahma Daksha. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma named Daksha took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Madisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadeva, Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. Please repeat. Following the order of Lord Brahma. All the prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma named Daksha took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Madisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadeva. Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In this connection, the word Mahad Avigyanat is significant. King Daksha was the son of Lord Brahma. Therefore, in a previous birth, he was a Brahmana. But because of his behaving like a non-Brahmana, a Brahmana, by insulting or disrespecting Lord Mahadeva, he had to take birth within the semen of a Kshatriya. That is to say, he became the son of the Prachetas. Not only that, but because of his disrespecting Lord Shiva, he had to undergo the tribulation of taking birth from within the womb of a woman. In the Daksha Yajna arena, he was once killed by Lord Shiva's servant, Virabhadra. Because that was not sufficient, he again took birth from the womb of Madisha. At the end of the Daksha Yajna and the disastrous incidents there, Daksha offered his prayer to Lord Shiva. Although he had to give up his body and take birth from the womb of a woman impregnated by the semen of a Kshatriya, he received all opulence by the grace of Lord Shiva. These are the subtle laws of material nature. Unfortunately, people in this modern age do not know how these laws are working. Having no knowledge of the eternity of the spirit soul and its transmigration, the population of the present age is in the greatest ignorance. Because of this, it is said in the Bhagavatam 1:1-10, Manda samanta matayo manda bhagya hi upadrutaha The total population in this age of Kali Yuga is very bad, lazy, unfortunate, and disturbed by material conditions. Techa Brahmana Adishan Madisham Upaye Mire Yasyam Maharavagyanad Ajanna Janna Yoni Jaha. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the Prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma named Daksha took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Madisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadeva, Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. Mukum karoti panchalam bhangam lagayate girim jadgripa tamaham bande Vigurum dinatarinum paramamanda madhavam. So, in regard to the story of Daksha, his wife was married to Lord Shiva, but Daksha did not approve of Lord Shiva. Although Lord Shiva is what? Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He's the greatest of the devotees. And he is in a special category all on his own. You have the Vishnu Tattva, which is the personality of Godhead and his expansions. And then you have the Jiva Tattva, which is the living entities. But somewhere in between there is the Shiva Tattva, which is a special category of Lord Shiva. Therefore, some persons, within the context of the Vedic culture, they worship Lord Shiva as if he were God. But he is not God, and the living entities are not God, but he's a little higher up than the ordinary jiva. So he's expanded from the Lord, and he is also a guna avatar of the Lord. The guna avatars are incarnations that are in charge of the modes of nature. Lord Vishnu, who is the personality of Godhead, full Vishnu Tattva, he takes charge of the mode of goodness. Lord Brahma, who is the secondary creator of the universe, he takes charge of the mode of passion. Yeah, he's fired up, passionate. He creates the universe and populates it with all the living entities, very much in the mode of passion. And Lord Brahma is not Vishnu Tattva, generally speaking. He's a living entity, but he's empowered. He's a Avesh avatar. He's empowered to do his function as the creator. But sometimes the Lord himself, if there's no particularly qualified living entity available for a particular universe, the Lord himself will take the post of Brahma. But normally that's not the case. And then you have Lord Shiva, who's in charge of what? Tamagun. And he is very merciful to the bhutas and the pretas and the pishachas, who are the ghostly living beings and the low-class living entities who are in the mode of ignorance, ghosts and spirits and such beings who are not auspicious. But the name Shiva means auspicious. So he is very auspicious. But those who follow him are not so auspicious necessarily. But because he's very merciful, he's Ashutosh, he's easily pleased and gives his benedictions. So sometimes people, they worship Lord Shiva as God, generally for material benedictions. That's like, not bhakti. That is not bhakti. There's no such thing as Shiva bhakti. Bhakti is for Vishnu or Krishna alone. And the so-called devotion to the demigods, Prabhupada says, is always a motivated type of devotion. You can say devotion, but you can't say bhakti. The bhakti is only for Krishna. Bhakti means the living entity worshiping with full love and devotion the Supreme Lord. And that is a very unique relationship between the Lord and the living entities that no one else, like a demigod, can have. So you don't have, there's no such thing as Shiva Bhakti or, you know, a Donald Trump Bhakti or, you know, Brahma Bhakti. No, they may have some, they may worship, but, and try to propitiate someone. There was a guy in India who was worshiping Donald Trump, you know, worshiping a picture and doing puja and everything, and it made it onto the internet. And everyone who's in the Vedic culture thought that was very funny. That was very silly and that was very funny. But, you know, I mean, the living entity, you know, can be a fool. As one devotee I know had written one song, how foolish he can be, the living entity. So that is certainly foolishness, to worship an ordinary person as if he were the supreme. And even there's a class of men that they believe that such a foolish living entity has been sent by God to espouse their values, and therefore they worship him, even though they know that he's a highly flawed rascal who is full of, you know, lust, anger, greed, envy, hatred, and commits so many impious activities. But such a sinful person, they accept that, oh, he's been sent by God. He's our savior. So this is all under the category of the mode of ignorance. Better they take shelter of Lord Shiva, who is auspicious, who is not Ashiva. So Lord Shiva is in a special position. And Daksha, he was son of Brahma, and he's one of the Prajapatis, the progenitors of the living entities to populate the universe. He's a very privileged and important and responsible position. And he was performing a yajna, but he disrespected Lord Shiva, whose wife, Sati, was the daughter of Daksha. And although she's his own daughter, and generally the daughter is very dear to the father, natural psychology, still he ostracized her because he didn't like Lord Shiva. He was envious of Lord Shiva, and he disrespected him. And when the Daksha yajna was being arranged, so everyone was going. It was a big thing. All the ladies were dressing up in their nice saris, and oh, we're going to the Daksha yajna. It's like a big party, and they get all dolled up, and they're flying with their husbands in vimanas, their airplanes, and they're going to the yajna. And then Sati, she sees this. They're all going, but Lord Shiva was not interested in going. Why should I go there? That foolish Daksha just simply disrespecting me, so better I not go so that he won't do that, because if he does that, it'll be very bad for him. And indeed, it did turn out to be very bad for him. Prabhupada refers to it as disastrous incident in this purport. So Sati was determined to go. I want to go to the party. I want to dress up, and all my relatives will be there, sisters, brothers, mother, everybody's there in my father's house. I mean, come on, husband. He's like, no, don't go. But she insisted on going. So he kind of trailed along. But he knew it wasn't going to be a very auspicious event, and indeed it was not. So then Daksha refused to show any respect to Lord Shiva, and Sati got really mad, really consumed by anger at her father. And then she started explaining in this yajna, the arena, that how can you disrespect Lord Shiva, who is the most auspicious, empowered entity in this universe, and you're just disrespecting him out of envy. She says, because of this, I feel that you are not my father. Although I have gotten my body from you, you're my father, you've given me my body, but I no longer want any connection with this body, which came from you, because you are a rascal. So then she sat down, and through mystic trance, she generated a fire that consumed her body right there in the sacrificial arena in front of everybody. It's a self-immolation, but without pouring gasoline and lighting matches. Sometimes during the Vietnam War, like there was a famous thing where some Buddhist monks would douse themselves with gasoline and set themselves on fire. There was one very famous photograph that was in Time magazine or Life magazine, I don't remember which one, of one Buddhist monk setting himself on fire, and he was engulfed in the flames. Wow, imagine doing that. And he was doing that as a protest. So she was doing it as a protest also, but without gasoline in her, without flicking her bick. She was able to do that. And then, so the followers of Lord Shiva, headed by Virabhadra, these powerful bhutas and pretas and pisachas, they had followed along to protect Sati, because they're very loyal to Lord Shiva and to his wife. So when she burned herself up in that fire, then they're like, okay, that's it. And they stormed the Yajna arena, and they cut off Daksha's head. That was his punishment, part of his punishment. And then they were trying to decide what to do. Well, you cut off his head, what to do? So there was one goat that was there as part of the sacrifice. They sacrificed the goat, and they took the goat's head and they placed it on Daksha's body, and he became alive with the goat's head. Okay? You've heard of this expression, the goat, the greatest of all time? Well, he was not the greatest of all time, but he was the goat. Daksha was the goat. And then with that goat head, he offered prayers to Lord Shiva. This is very amazing pastimes, but this is the type of information you get from Vedic literature, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam, that you won't find anywhere else. If only the movie makers of the world knew this, they have this fertile resource for fantastic stories. But because they're fools and rascals, they don't take advantage of that. They want to glorify mundane stories of affairs between men and women, and war and politics and lust, anger and greed. But the Bhagavatam, the subject matter, is about Krishna and the pastimes and the activities of great devotees and important personalities in the universe in relation to the Lord. So it is Uttama Shloka. Tama means darkness, and Uttama means above the darkness. So Uttama Shloka, the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees, it is Uttama Shloka, Prabhupada renders that as choice transcendental poetry. That is a creation far above the mundane considerations of the conditioned souls. Now, in this verse, this purport, Prabhupada points out that in this age, people are unaware of the Vedic principles and of what is actually going on in the universe and what is happening with the living entities, who are all spirit souls, originally servants of Krishna, and having fallen under the clutches of illusion or Maya and taken shelter there. And as a result, and especially because of Kali Yuga, everyone is in a very inauspicious condition of life. Now, this is pointed out, as Prabhupada refers to in the purport, in the first canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 10, the very 10th verse of the entire Bhagavatam, which has 18,000 verses. So in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, the sages are gathered at Namisharanya for a 1,000-year sacrifice to counteract the ill effects of the age of Kali, which has begun just after Krishna has left the planet. So we're talking 3000 BC, I think about 3100 BC. That's a while back. That's when modern scholars think civilization has begun, but it actually has been going on a lot longer than that, actually millions of years, billions of years. But that they don't know either, because they're covered by illusion. Because the scholars are what? They're all inhabitants of and products of the bad qualities of Kali Yuga. And so the sages are addressing Sutta Goswami, who is the leader of that assembly and who had inherited that position from his father, Romaharshan Sutta, who, because of his disrespecting Lord Balaram, while Lord Balaram was on tour, having decided not to take part in the Battle of Kurukshetra, not to take sides, even though on one side was his favorite student, Dhirodatta, who learned the art of club fighting from Lord Balaram. So he was his disciple, and Lord Balaram was very affectionate to him, even though Dhirodatta was a real rascal, a real enemy of Krishna and the Pandavas. And on the other side, his brother Krishna. So how could he take part in this fight? It was a big conflict of interest. He didn't want to go against the wishes of Krishna or disturb their relationship, although he is the personality of Godhead also himself. Neither did he want to take the side of his favorite disciple, Duryodhana. So he instead decided to go on pilgrimage and thus avoid the entire battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, Lord Balaram has nothing to do with the battle of Kurukshetra. He's not involved, although everybody else at the time was very much involved on both sides, both the Pandavas and the Kurus, or the Kauravas. So Balaram, while he was on pilgrimage, he came upon this assembly of sages, and seated on the Vyasasan was Romaharshan Sutta, a highly qualified Brahmana and knower of the Vedas. So when Lord Balaram came into the assembly, everyone was like, wow, it's this personality of Godhead, Lord Balaram. And they all stood up to offer obeisances. And Romaharshan remained seated on the Vyasasan. Kind of like the same way Daksha treated Lord Shiva. He was neglectful, and he did not offer his respects. And Lord Balaram, seeing this, decided to mitigate his offense at being disrespectful to the Lord. So he took a blade of kusha grass, and he touched Romaharshan Sutta with that kusha grass blade, and it took his life. Much to the great shock of all the sages and sadhus in the assembly. It's like, wow, you can't kill the guru on the Vyasasan in the great assembly. Lord, pardon us, Lord Balaram. We know you're the personality of Godhead and everything, but what's up with that? What's up with killing Romaharshan? That's just, you can't do that. So they asked him to perform some penance to counteract the, quote, reaction. Although he's God, there's no reaction. He can do whatever he likes. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there's no work that affects me, nor am I affected by any type of reactions or anything like that, because he's the personality of Godhead. He's so above the laws of nature. He's the creator and the controller of the laws of nature. and they're his servants. So Lord Balaram said, okay, I'll go on pilgrimage for 1 year. And then at that time, Sutta Goswami was appointed to take the seat of Brahmaharshan, who was his father. But Sutta Goswami had been present during the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. So he was considered to be very qualified, a great learned scholar, a great Vedantist, very qualified in terms of his lifestyle, his characteristics, his consciousness. So he was given the seat of Brahmaharshan. And therefore, that's how Sutta Goswami came to be present, sitting on the Vyasasan at the gathering of the sages of Naimisharanya, which is referred to here. So in this verse was spoken, this verse about the qualities and characteristics of Kali Yuga was spoken by the learned sages, as in the beginning the sages posed a series of questions to Sutta Goswami. So first, they spoke this verse, which Prabhupada quotes the second half of in today's purport. Prayena payasha shabya ravashmin juge janaha mandasu manda matayo vandabhagya hi upadrutaha. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. When I first read this verse in the Bhagavatam, I was going, that's it, that's modern society. This explains the chaotic condition of the world. And Prabhupada elaborates very nicely. We're going to read the purport. The devotees of the Lord are always anxious for the spiritual improvement of the general public. When the sages of Naimisharanya analyzed the state of the affairs of the people in this age of Kali, they foresaw that men would live short lives. In Kali Yuga, the duration of life is shortened not so much because of insufficient food, but because of irregular habits. By keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any man can maintain his health. Overeating, over sense gratification, over dependence on another's mercy, and artificial standards of living sap the very vitality of the human energy. Therefore, the duration of life is shortened. We see that the lifestyles of people in the age of Kali, staying up all night, eating all kinds of weird stuff, not keeping regular habits, and smoking and drinking and eating meat and indulging the senses, taking it to the limit to enjoy, supposedly, they're thinking. And therefore, the duration of life is very short. Like I was thinking of there was one very famous jazz master named Charlie Parker from Kansas City, played alto sax. And he was a real innovator in the 1930s and 40s with his kind of invented the jazz known as bebop. Really expert, really empowered musician. And Charlie Parker and his group just took the United States by storm in the whole jazz world. Very successful. But Charlie Parker was also a big indulger in sense gratification. He drank a lot, he smoked a lot, he did drugs. He always had tons of women around him, indulged to the max. And he died young. He was in his 30s. And when the doctor examined him, he said he looked like a man of 65 years old. He just burned the candle at both ends. He was a huge enjoyer. And It killed him at a young age. Overindulgence in sense gratification. And therefore the duration of his life was short. He looked like an old man. He looked like a man who was, twice his age when he died, because he burned himself out by being a faithful, card-carrying member of the union of Kali Yuga enjoyers. So he was a real follower of Kali, no doubt. So Prabhupada continues in the purport. The people of this age are also very lazy, not only materially, but in the matter of self-realization. The human life is especially meant for self-realization. That is to say, man should come to know what he is, what the world is, and what the supreme truth is. The people don't know any of these things. They don't know who they are, what they are, what is the actual world, what is the cosmos, what is the material energy, and what to speak of knowing what the supreme truth is. Forget it. Human life is a means by which the living entity can end all the miseries of the hard struggle for life in the material existence, and by which he can return to Godhead, his eternal home. But due to a bad system of education, men have no desire for self-realization. Even if they come to know about it, they unfortunately become victims of misguided teachers. In this age, men are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, but also of many different types of sense gratificatory diversions, such as cinemas, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad association, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickerings, and so on. Their minds are always disturbed and full of anxieties due to so many different engagements. In this age, many unscrupulous men manufacture their own religious faiths, which are not based on any revealed scriptures. And very often people who are addicted to sense gratifications are attracted by such institutions. They get many followers. Just because they're bogus doesn't mean they don't get followers. When they're bogus, they get more followers than the real Vedic path. Consequently, in the name of religion, so many sinful acts are being carried on that the people in general have neither peace of mind nor health of body. The student brahmachari communities are no longer being maintained, and householders do not observe the rules and regulations of the grihastha ashrama. Consequently, the so-called vanaprasthas and sannyasis who come out of such grihastha ashrams are easily deviated from the rigid path. In the Kali Yuga, the whole atmosphere is surcharged with faithlessness. Men are no longer interested in spiritual values. Material sense gratification is now the standard of civilization. Now this is a true focus, a true deep penetrating understanding of what is the standard of civilization currently in the world. Material sense gratification is now the standard of civilization. Well, no wonder. No wonder there's so much chaos and calamity and inauspiciousness that permeate the civilization. It's rotten at the core because sense gratification is the standard. For the maintenance of such material civilization, man has formed complex nations and communities. And there is a constant strain of hot and cold wars between these different groups. It has become very difficult, therefore, to raise the spiritual standard due to the present distorted values of human society. This is the world we live in, folks. Distorted values, and the standard is sense gratification. Boy, it's a very clear, penetrating understanding of what's going on in the world. And you will not find this elsewhere other than in the pages of Bhagavatam. The sages of Naimisharanya are anxious to disentangle all the fallen souls. And here they're seeking the remedy from Srila Sutta Goswami. So the sages are approaching Sutta. Well, what are we going to do now? Look what's going on in the world. And this was 5,000 years ago when things were much better than they are now. You know how they used to have those cigarette commercials? You've come a long way, baby. You know, the women can smoke now. You've come a long way, baby. You're so independent. You can smoke, you can drink, you can have illicit sex, just like any man. So you're evolved. Now you are an evolved sense gratifier. You've come a long way, baby. Yeah, you've come a long way down the tubes. How low can you go? Well, let's explore that and see how much lower we can go. So this is, a great source of distress to the sages at Naimisharanya. What can we do? How can we help? What needs to be done? And of course, the remedy is to take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this is further. Let me see if I can find it. Further explored in the 7th chapter, the 6th and the 7th chapter of the first canto, where Vyasadeva, who has compiled all the Vedas, he's sitting in his ashram. He's like, I don't know, man, something's wrong. I did everything. I did austerity, practiced vows, celibacy. I compiled all the Vedas. I explained everything for the benefit of everyone. And now I'm bummed out. Like, that should not be. How can I be bummed out after doing all this great stuff, compiling the Vedas, writing them down, distributing them to my disciples? What is going on? And then just at that moment, his spiritual master, Sri Narada Muni, appears on the scene. And Narada can immediately detect there's a problem here. And he says, why are you feeling undone, my dear Prabhu? And then he chastises him. First Vyasadeva says, I don't know, I thought I did everything right. And then Narada Muni actually chastises him because he's the guru. And the guru sometimes chastises the disciple for his benefit. And he said to him, are you satisfied by identifying the body and the mind as objects of self-realization? Vyasadeva's like, whoa, that's not what I meant to do. And then he said, you have not sufficiently glorified the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And then Narada Muni explained the biography of his own life to Vyasadeva. And then he left. And Vyasadeva was pondering all this. It was like, yeah, that's what happened. I didn't sufficiently glorify the personality of Godhead. And then he went into a trance of meditation. And in that trance, he saw the Lord. Remember, Vyasadeva is an empowered incarnation of the Lord to compile the Vedas. So he's not like some ordinary dude, some regular Kali Yuga type of personality. No, he's a highly advanced, empowered living entity. So in his trance of meditation, he sees the Lord. And he sees the Lord's various energies. The living entities are one of the energies of the Lord. The spiritual energy of the Lord, Mahatmanas Tamam Partam, Daivam Prakatim Ashritaha. The great souls, they take shelter of that internal spiritual potency of the Lord. And he sees the external energy of the Lord, Maya, and how she's influencing the living entities. And then he sees the inauspiciousness of the age of Kali descending upon the Earth planet. And so there's one really nice verse. Let me find it. Let me read this text 4. He fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead, along with his external energy, which was under full control. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product, and thus undergoes the reactions of the material miseries. And then there's this very wonderful verse, text 6 in chapter 7 of the first canto. Anarto pashamam shakshad bhakti yoga madhoksaje lokasya janato vidvangs chakre satvata sanghitang. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, which means actually the living entity has nothing to do with the material miseries, but because he's under the control of Maya and have taken shelter there, then he identifies with the body and the miseries, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But lokasya janato vidvams, the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to the supreme truth. So in his Tattva Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami makes reference to the fact that Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme truth, supreme Vedic literature. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuranam Amalam. It is the spotless truth, and it is the Amala Purana, the highest of the Puranas. And it only contains the supreme truth. No bogus anything, no Maya. And so Jiva Goswami, the Tattva Sandarbha, there's Shat Sandarbha, 6 Sandarbhas, and they are the essence of the theistic Vaishnava philosophy, espoused by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and explicated very expertly by Srila Jiva Goswami through logic and argument and philosophy. Srila Prabhupada notes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Srila Jiva Goswami is the greatest philosopher who ever lived. He refers to him as. And he notes that Srila Rupa Goswami compiled in his books 100,000 verses. That's the equivalent of the Mahabharata, which is 100,000 verses. The Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. The Mahabharata is 100,000 verses. So that's the total literary output of Srila Rupa Goswami. And the total literary output of Srila Jiva Goswami is 400,000 verses, 4 times that of Rupa Goswami. So he's a prolific writer, philosopher, and his works are very amazing. So in the Sandarbhas, he is laying out the entire Vaishnav canon, the entire Vaishnav philosophy in a very systematic way. And the whole Tattva Sandarbha argues that Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the basis of Krishna consciousness movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the follower of the Bhagavatam, and he propagated Srimad Bhagavatam himself amongst his followers. And that was taken up by the 6 Goswamis, who were deputed with writing books to argue philosophically about the importance of Bhagavatam. So Jiva Goswami Pad, he establishes that Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme Vedic literature and the most important of all the Vedic literatures. It should be studied and followed very completely by devotees of the Lord. And as one evidence of this, he cites this section of the Bhagavatam where Vyasadeva, specifically this couple of verses we just read, how when Vyasadeva entered this trance of meditation and bhakti yoga, and he clearly perceived, directly perceived the truth of the Supreme Lord and his energies, the suffering of the jivas who've taken shelter of Maya, the spiritual world, and Maya, the material energy. He gives this as direct evidence of the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it is the fruit of this not only realization, but you could say revelation from Krishna to Srila Vyasadeva. And therefore, as a result of this vision, this revelation, this spiritual insight, then Vyasadeva has compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. And because the mass of people are ignorant, he's given this Bhagavatam, which focuses on what? Bhakti Yoga, the linking process of devotional service, as the means of mitigating all the inebrieties and miseries of material existence and delivering the living entity to Bhakti Yoga, which will take him beyond this pitiful situation of being under the control of Maya and liberate him and take him back home, back to Godhead. So he makes a very forceful argument. It's very wonderful. You get a chance to read the Sandarbhas. You will see in this Tattva Sandarbha. So that's what happens to the living entity when he gives up his Krishna consciousness and takes shelter of the material energy. It's like he becomes stripped of his spiritual nature. It's torn from his consciousness, and he's cast into a spell of bewilderment and bewitchment by Maya. There's one jazz standard called Bewitched, Bewildered, and Bothered. I think it's by Rodgers and Hart, the jazz standard. Bewitched, bewildered, and bothered. That's the living entity under the control of Maya. Bewitched is like, he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. He doesn't know what he's doing. Bewitched, bewildered, and bothered. Bothered by the threefold miseries. So the solution, of course, is to chant the holy names of the Lord and to hear the messages of the Bhagavatam, which fully explain the glories of bhakti yoga, devotion to Krishna, as the goal of life. Let's see that. And also, one side effect of taking shelter of Maya, or one, not side effect, but prominent primary effect, is that the living entity becomes filled with a sense of godlessness, Prabhupada writes. So he thinks, oh, there's no God. Or he thinks, what else? That I am God. Well, maybe there's no other God but me alone. And that puts him in the most fallen position of suffering. And the remedy is Srimad Bhagavatam. Chakre Satvata Samhitam. Therefore, Vyasadeva gave us the Srimad Bhagavatam to counteract that fallen condition and take us away. We're praying to Krishna. Krishna, just take me away from this insanity of being in the conditioned state and return me to my normal position as your loving servant. All right. Thank you very much. Questions, comments, realizations?
I'm not sure I was going to say this right, but with Balaram, when Ramaharsana didn't stand to respect him, he thought, well, that's what Krishna and Balaram came to correct people, like that's the whole battle of Kurukshetra, get rid of the impious and establish, respect. And so that's why he killed him.
Well, he killed him because of his offense of not respecting himself, the personality of Godhead, and he wanted to take the reaction away from him.
Oh.
So he killed him, reaction over.
Oh.
Just like the state, there's a murderer.
Right.
He's going to have bad reaction in his next life. So the state takes his life off with his head.
Yeah.
And then that takes away that bad karma, that completes it, fulfills it, nullifies it.
Right.
So he doesn't have to suffer in his next life. Therefore, Prabhupada says capital punishment is a type of mercy.
Right.
Given by the state to finish up the sinful reactions of the murderer or whatever his crime may be. Generally, it's murder. It's capital crime. Also treason. selling state secrets to North Korea or whatever. Anyone else? All right, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.